Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Sue, your East Oakland advocate. We're back in the kitchen. Today, we're going to make donuts from scratch. Literally, we're going to make donuts from scratch. And so, first thing that we want to do is activate the yeast. And so, one of the ingredients of the donuts is milk. And so, I use full vitamin D milk because the fat is going to help make the donuts fluffy. And so what we want to do, the milk is right now heated to 114 degrees. And that's the upper limit. If you look at the back of your yeast, this is live yeast. You don't want to get it too hot because then it'll kill the yeast off. And this is what makes your donuts light and fluffy. And so what we're going to do, we're going to get this started right now. So we're going to take this whole packet and we're going to put it into the milk. Then we're just going to stir it in and let it get frothy. That's how we know when it's all done, all mixed in correctly and it's activated. And so we just want to stir this in. Make sure that it gets all good mixed. So you see it right here. It's starting to get a little frothy. The milk itself, well, all we're doing is just using a standard whisk. We don't want to overdo this. We just want to activate, wake up the yeast from the refrigerator. And then we're just going to set this aside for a moment while we start getting the rest of the components ready for mixing. And so anyway, we have the milk and yeast, which are working right now. And then we're going to use this as the mixing bowl. So we're going to put all of our wet ingredients in here. So the first thing we want to do, we want to get our milk and yeast combination in. So we're going to pour all the contents in there. Then we're going to add a little bit of salt. This is sea salt, just plain sea salt. I like using really fine sea salt because it breaks down quicker. This is 4 grams because what we're doing, we're doubling up on the typical size, because the typical size will make you about 6 donuts. We're going to make a dozen or better donuts with this. So that's what this is for today. And so the first thing we had was 250 milligrams of milk, just plain milk. You could use 2%, but the higher fat content is what's needed, especially for in baking and donuts. So vitamin D milk, whole milk, is recommended. And so we activated the yeast in here, so that's going. We have the salt, and then we also have sugar. And so the sugar, the sugar we had 60 grams of sugar that we have. So we're just going to pour that in, and then we're going to mix that in with the warm milk and the yeast. And so you see what we're doing, and it's getting frothy, and that's what we want. We want to see it getting frothy, and then we're going to add the 4 grams of salt, and then we're going to stir that in. You see, that's looking real good now, and that's what we want. We want it frothy, and then we're going to add in the egg. Some people add in 2 eggs. I think 1 egg. So far, I've had good success with 1 egg, but it's up to you. You can experiment, try it, and see what works for you. I like my donuts really light and fluffy. So you see, we have the mixture right here, and right now we're almost at a point where we're going to start adding all of the flour. And so, like I said, this is specifically for a little better than a dozen donuts. This is 600 grams of flour, otherwise known as 4 cups. And so we're just going to start slowly adding some in and then whisking it in so that we get all of this mixed in really well. Okay, now that we mixed in some of the flour in here, we want to mix in the butter, and this is plain unsalted butter, and we are using 60 grams of butter that's melted and then brought back down to room temperature. We don't want it too hot because if you pour it in there while it's hot, it's going to kill off the yeast. And so what we want to do is make sure that it is not above 114 degrees. So again, your thermometer, go inside of here, and we are right now at 114. So we're good right now. We're exactly 114 degrees. And so we're going to put this into the mix and then start adding in the rest of the flour. But we want to get this mixed in, start getting mixed in, and then start adding in more flour, and until we get a dough. And this helps get things mixed really, really quickly with a whisk. And I like using the whisk because it gives you more surface area than the solid, which is what we're going to be moving to here shortly, to get all of the dry thoroughly mixed in to the batter, which is what we're forming right now. And the batter is going to eventually form a dough, and that's what we want. And so, and you see how it's starting to really thicken up. Now we're going to switch over to the spatula and start mixing everything in with the spatula. And we want a good thick dough. And we're going to roll the dough out after we allow all of the ingredients to work together and form the dough, the basis for the donuts. So we're just going to continue mixing everything in. And it's plenty wet right now. And it's just a matter of pressing everything in to form the dough and getting all the dry mixed in really well with the moisture. And so moving things around. And then we still have to knead the dough. And then that's where a mechanical mixer comes in handy. So I have a food processor that has an attachment to knead the dough. And so we're going to put this into that machine once we get all the dry mixed in here. What is it? And this should take you a little bit of time. If you have a mixer, KitchenAid mixer, or a professional grade mixer that has a dough attachment, this makes it so much easier, so much less work. But it's still important that you get everything blended in nicely. We still have a few dry spots here. So we're going to to really push and make the dough pick up all of this flour. And it's just blending and mixing, making sure that you have um, a fairly dry dough. Once you get through the mixing and kneading portion. So right now we're just about right where we want to be for the mixing. And you see I've been constantly moving everything around here. And so right now, yeah, and we've just about have all of our dry mixed into the dough here. And we're not getting any real wet areas or anything, which is good, and that's what we want. And so anyway, first, now that we've got everything all mixed in, we want to let this rest and rise. And so we want to get a clean, separate pan, mixing pan, and we want to oil it inside or grease it. I like using Pam right here. I like the olive oil. It's quick and easy, and this speeds things up. So just give a nice coat all the way around. And then what you want to do is you want to take this, and I mean it's a big ball right now, and we're going to squish it a little bit, push it, firm it up slightly like you see, and we're going to put it in here. We're going to let it sit for 1 hour. We're going to come back in an hour, and this is going to rise. And then after it rises, then we're going to knead the dough so that it softens. Okay, it's been 2 hours now since we last played with the dough, and look at how much it's risen. It's more than doubled its size, and so right now we're going to open this up, and I've already put flour. Oh yeah, you can smell when you remove the plastic, you can smell the yeast on it. But now what we want to do is deflate the dough, and we want to roll it. And so we're going to knead the dough a little bit more. And what we're going to do, we're going to put some flour in our hands. I've already pre-floured the board, and so what we want to do now, we want to knead the dough to get all the gas out. And so we don't want to do a whole lot, but we do want to press it down. And now we have the dough, and we're going to put a little more flour around the edges here, a little more there, a little on top. And we're going to use this roller and roll this dough out. And right now I have it set for 3/8 depth, or thickness. And so we're just going to kind of push this down, roll this out, and it helps to have flour on the surface on the roller. And so we want to roll this out, and you see it's still pretty elastic. You see, it's forming and it's stretching. It's stretching it out in a way, and I want to get it right around the thickness, the correct thickness. But we want to stretch this out so that we can start using the cutter, cutting the dough. All right, and so that's good. And you need one of these to cut your donuts. These are cheap. They're readily available online. I got this one off of Amazon Prime. It was $12. And so makes things really simple. And so what we're going to do, we're just going to take this and press and twist. And then that shape brings out our donut, our first donut. And then we have the hole. and so look at that, perfect cut. And then the other thing that you want to have at the ready is parchment paper. And so you just put that onto the parchment paper, just like that. And we're going to let these sit for about another hour, and then they're going to be ready for cooking because the yeast right now is working, and we want these to inflate some more. So we're going to cut the rest of these out. We're going to do a few more here. And sometimes they stick. That's okay. And again, you want to have the parchment paper at the ready. You can use wax paper also. Parchment paper, wax paper, they both work and are actually pretty much the same thing. Um, and these donut holes, don't throw them away. You're going to want to save those and cook those alongside the donuts. And these are going to be big donuts because I made them really thick. Because a lot of times you can just leave it at a 1/4 inch thickness, and you can get more donuts out of uh, the dough. But we're not going to waste anything. We're going to, once we get these, then we're going to reform the leftover dough here, and then continue rolling and making more donuts. You see they come up real nice and easy, and over the next hour these are going to puff up. These are going to double in size, so they're going to be really big, and that's what you want. And so right now we're going to press this back together, and if it's too dry, you can add a little bit of moisture. Just add a little bit of water. I have a spray bottle of just plain water, and so I can just wet the surface a little bit and then roll it in, and that softens it just enough so that everything can recombine, and that's all we want. We don't want a lot of moisture. We don't want to make it real tacky or anything. And so right now it's coming back together, and we're just going to kind of put that aside for a moment. We're going to put a little more flour down, and we're going to give this this dough a few minutes to work on recombining, and then we're going to roll it out and start making our final donuts. Okay, while we're waiting for the oil to heat up, we're going to make the glaze, and the glaze is really easy. Powdered sugar, milk, and that's just the standard glaze. But I wanted a maple, and so I'm going to put some of my dark maple syrup in to have a maple glaze. And so I measured out 2 cups of powdered sugar, so we're just going to put it right in here. And we're going to start with a tablespoon of whole milk. Because all we want to do is just get this going, just wetting it. See where we're at. Now, we're definitely going to need more milk. So we're going to go with 1, 2. So a total of 3 tablespoons of whole milk into 2 cups of powdered sugar. And you see how it's starting to develop now. We can put more in as we need. We don't want to put too much in because then we'd have to add more powdered sugar. And it doesn't take a lot of moisture to reconstitute the powdered sugar. And you can see it's pretty thick right now. But remember, we still haven't added the maple syrup in yet. And once we add the maple syrup in, that's going to thin it out also. So what we want to do, we want to get some of that sugar out of here. So just take a fork and we'll scoop it out and get it back in to the bowl. And then we're going to add just start adding a little bit of the maple syrup, and that's going to help make it more workable. So I've measured out half a cup of maple syrup. We'll add a good portion of that in, and we'll start stirring that. And it's going to thin out significantly. But it's going to add a lot of flavor. If you like maple syrup, or you like maple syrup on your pancakes and waffles, you're going to love maple glaze on your donut. And right now, we're going to go back and check. I'm going to check on the temperature of the oil for the donuts, because we're heating up the oil right now, and we need to get to 375 degrees, and we want to stay under 400. Because at 400, it cooks the outer portion of the donut too quickly. So we're going to get our temperature probe. And you see how I've laid everything out here on the tray. So anyway, we're going to get a temperature reading we want 375 and less than 400. So we're pretty close right now. About nearing 360 at the moment. So once we get up the temperature, we'll be ready. But moving back to the glaze, you can see it's setting up real nice. And we want to get this all ready so that once the donuts cool down, we start glazing the donuts with this maple glaze. And the glaze is that simple. It's not difficult at all, folks. And we're going to put a little more maple syrup in. We're going to actually put the rest of it in because I like real strong maple syrup flavor. And the glaze, if it's too thin, the nice thing is I can add some more powdered sugar to thicken it up. And yeah, see, that thinned out quite a bit right there. But that's a nice workable viscosity. And I'm not going to do anything to it just yet because as it sits, it's going to solidify slightly. So I'm going to just let it do its natural thing. I'm going to put every last bit of that maple syrup into the glaze. And we're going to mix that in. And that, like I said, I think that's going to be okay. But you see how that's a nice color. Kind of like a white chocolate bar almost. And all it is just powdered sugar, milk. You can also use heavy whipping cream for the liquid if you don't have whole milk. Heavy whipping cream works also. So anyway, we're going to go take another temperature reading over here and see how we're doing. And we're already there. So now we're going to turn it down. And we're right where we want to be. And so what we're going to do now, we're going to put the first couple of donuts into the hot oil. And so you see how thick that got, the raising. And so that's going to be a really big donut. And then we're just going to drop it in just like that. First one, we're going to grab another one. Again, look at that. It really raised up. And then we're going to put that one in, and we're going to put one more in. We don't want to crowd the pan. So again, look at that. That's why it takes time to make donuts. And so just like that, they're cooking away. And you don't want to leave them too long. You don't want to get them overcooked. As you see, they cook pretty quick. We're talking only a minute, a little better than a minute to cook a donut. And that's it. And that's looking real good. That's still got to brown a little more. That's got to brown a little more. But you see that that's doing really well. We can start adding in more right now as these are cooking. They're cooking really quick. And the nice thing is, if you got kids, this is a nice project instead of having them sit in front of the TV or in front of the computer. Now, see, that's a fully cooked donut right there, and I mean that's beautiful. You want to have a bowl standing by, close by, uh, and flipping them. You want to flip them. That one needs a little turning. This one needs to be turned. This one turn. Oops. Also, but that should be ready, and that's decent. You don't want to brown them too much unless you like crispy donuts. If you like crispy donuts, yeah, then that works really well for you. So you see how these are going, and we're going to keep going. We need to add some more color on the bottom right there. So we'll add another donut here. And one more. And these will be coming out, so we're not too worried about the crowding. You see, that balanced out really nicely. The color, you see, that balanced out really nice. And we're just going to let that cool. And then we take the other one out. Again, see, it's nicely cooked. It's almost crunchy, but not crunchy yet. Now we're going to turn these, and we're going to add some more donuts. and two. And you see, it cooks really quick. It still needs a little more time. That one's a little light here on both sides. So, but at 1,000 watts here, that's medium heat, kind of upper medium heat, but medium. So that's all you need. You just need to maintain the temperature properly. Check on the donuts. Looks like the oil's cooling down a little bit. We're going to turn this up a little more. Flip and flip. You see how they're looking. They're looking really good. Right after we finish these, we're going to do the donut holes and watch those cook. But one of the most important things, once the donuts are cooked, you got to let them cool down just a little bit. Otherwise, the sugar melts on the donuts. And you don't want the sugar melting too much because then it starts making the donut soggy. That's why I like kind of a little bit crispy outside, not too crispy. This one is ready, as you see. That's a nice cook on it, puffed up nicely. This one's even all the way around. You can see it's nice and even. And so we're still cooking these two. We still got one more donut to cook here. We're going to put that in right after the turning here. So this is the last donut that we made with the actual dough. But you'll notice that there's a lot more donut holes. While there wasn't enough dough to make another donut, there was enough dough to make additional donut holes. And with the cutter, it comes with an additional donut hole cutter. And so this is the tool right here, the donut hole cutter. And that's what gives you, so you don't waste any of the dough, and it all gets cooked. And so anyway, these are going to be done. We're going to take these out, let them cool off. Turn this one. And we're going to start putting some donut holes in. And And when you start cooking donut holes, you need to have one of these. It's a deep frying spider, and so it makes it real easy scooping things out from the hot grease and oil. So we're just going to start throwing these in and let them cook. Just throw a bunch of them in there, because they're not going to puff up too big. They will puff up some, but not too bad. And this donut is pretty much ready. So we're going to go ahead and remove the last donut, and you see it's cooked nicely. It's balanced all the way around. So now it just goes to the cooling basket. And right now we want to turn the donut holes, because we don't want them to burn. We want all the sides to cook. And this is the only way that you can actually do it. You see that they're starting to puff up, because the heat is starting to get to some of them, and that's what you want. You want these donut holes to really puff up nicely, and they are. And again, these don't take but a moment, because they're even smaller. So, but have fun. Uh, let your kids get involved with cooking the donuts, because number one, it starts teaching them the basics of cooking and the importance of cooking. And it starts developing great memories of food at an early age, and their ability to prepare their own meals. I mean, I felt incredible the first time I fried an egg, and it was amazing for me. And that was at 8, just frying an egg. And then bacon. Uh, I moved on to bacon after that. So we're going to let the oil heat back up again, because the temperature has dropped significantly, because the donut holes weren't cooking as fast as I thought they would be cooking. But because they should only be about 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and they're done. So we're looking at the temperature. Okay, we're right in the correct range, and actually a little hot even. So we're going to turn it back down to 1,000, and then start adding the donut holes that we've cut out. And we're just going to add a whole bunch of them. Just add them all in there. There's plenty of room. And again, you'll want to be minding these. You don't want to let them sit, otherwise they won't cook evenly. You don't want to push hard, but you do want them to move around. Uh, and try and turn them so that you know, the light side gets a chance to cook. Right? Sometimes it can be tricky, because sometimes they just don't want to cooperate. But like you see, this one rolled back over, and so I'll probably just hold that around, but keep things moving. Let them all cook. Uh, like I said, 45 seconds should be the maximum here, and we're just about there, because I'm looking at the browning, and so everything's going to be cooked, and that's it. That's all the cooking for the donuts. It goes that quick, and the spider makes draining the oil very easy, and so these are all the cooked donuts now. And while they're cooling down, uh, they'll be we'll be going and glazing them here shortly. And the glazing is the fun part. And the kid in you can really come out on this one, because this is absolutely delicious and flavorful like you would not believe. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back for the final part. And this is the fun part. This is where you're going to have problems keeping the kids out of the donuts, the ready donuts, because there's a couple of ways that you can finish off the donuts. You can have them plain, just like this, just plain donut. You can do a powder sugaring where you put it into a mixing bowl, put the powdered sugar in, and toss these. Or what we're going to do here, we're going to glaze. And there's two ways you can glaze this. You can glaze half the donut, half from the midpoint up, or you can do like at Krispy Kreme where it's completely entrenched. You know, for myself, I like kind of the half donut. So what we're going to do, we're just going to dip it right in there, push it to the halfway mark, and then pull it back out. And that's a glazed donut. We'll just set it down on the plate just like that. We'll grab another one and we're going to do the same thing. And we're just going to take it, we're just going to put it on top of the glaze. Push it about midway down and it'll float back up. Let any excess drip off of it. And this is why you want to let the donuts cool down. As right now they're still a little warm. The glazing isn't able to set up quite as well, but it's pretty close. But again, it's pretty good. You can always go back and dip a second time. So we're going to do another donut here. Again, drop it right in. We're going to push it down. Also kind of wiggle it inside the glaze, and then pull it out, and then let it sit. One more. I'm just going to drop it right in there, push it down. And in fact, I think what we're going to do, we're going to glaze this one in its entirety. So we're going to flip it around and glaze the entire donut. And so now that's an entirely glazed donut. Usually what you want to do is have a baker's rack on top of this, which is a screen, and then that way everything can cool down properly and things can drip through. But anyway, we got 4 donuts here that are made. These are glazed, ready for eating. Like I said, this is the portion where keeping the kids out of them is the hard part. But we're going to come back and we're going to do a regular granular sugar coating on the donut holes. So we'll be right back. Okay, and then this is the last way of coating, the easiest way to coating. You can actually even let your kids do this one. And it's just plain granulated sugar. Just put a small amount into the bowl. Then after that, just dump the donut holes in there, just like that. And all you're going to do is just shake it around. And, but anyway, that's that's how easy it is to sugarcoat this. This sugar is a little heavier than what I normally would get. Uh, so I may end up having to do a little bit of powdered sugar on this one, you know, because the granulated sugar, that one's pretty hard. That one's pretty thick. Yeah, this one's doing much better. Now it's starting to coat it much better. And that's all you have to do. Just toss it just like that. You don't need to touch anything. Just toss them. And then after you toss that, then you can put it onto a serving plate or a bowl. And again, the spider comes in handy, as you can grab all of everything out of there real quick and easy. And these are ready to enjoy. So here we have the granulated sugar, and then we have the glazed donuts. Enjoy, folks.